what
how big
was
she's
in
doing,
there.
yeah.
What's his page?
Yeah.
They probably changed, do something cheaper.
Yeah.
You didn't receive anything from locality?
Not that I know of, she's given me everything, but she had to.
Wasn't unusual frustrating, that's the case. So the different Polish is in just a touch. That was these days.
Okay.
And
Right.
just-
Okay, good evening everybody and welcome to a meeting of the Maddox Charity Management Committee. Apologies for the slightly deferred delay and thank you councillors for being here. First item is apologies for absences received.
We've received apologies from Councillor Paul Carter and Councillor Danielle Carter for travel commitments.
Okay, thank you. Second item is the declaration of interest to receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest from members in respect of business to be transacted on the agenda. Do we have any declarations? No. So that's thank you. Public participation. Are there any
Minutes.
wishing to
Minutes,
speak? Sorry, minutes. I do beg your pardon. The minutes of the Charity Commission, the Charity Management Committee from last time. Do we have any comments on those?
No. Has there been any progress in the CIO?
I think we'll be covering that later on.
Okay.
I propose we accept those minutes.
I think there's just one comment from me in respect of the co-optees. I think we discussed the co-optees under item 6, and we've got Margaret, which is great. Just to let you know, there has been a response to the notice in the town magazine. Somebody has come forward, so the intent is to have a discussion with that person with a view to co-optee. So
Can you let us know who it is later on in Friday?
of course, yeah.
Because we may probably know them, so.
Yeah.
Okay. So did we have somebody to propose?
Second, yeah.
A second, thank you for that. Right, so now we're on to public participation.
None received.
Okay, so I have to read out the usual thing. Right, item 5 is the outsourced charity arrangement. Members to consider the responses received to the questions raised with Kent Community Foundation and the next steps. So I don't know if you've all had a chance to read the responses to the questions that were raised and if you have any comments on those. I would just kind of lead with one. I was disappointed with the response from them regarding putting the mayor of Sandwich as a trustee of the organisation, because the organisation has 12 trustees and it has a total investment portfolio of about £35 million. So if we were to place some £3 million with them, it would represent a significant proportion. So I think it's a very important point for us, but I think we should, because if we are interested in moving forward with them, that would be one of the conditions that we would want to hear. Councillor?
No, I'm not interested in it at all. I want to keep it local. I think Georgina wanted it local and Dominic going to Ashford because I know they're going to put it 1.5%, but it's all money that'll be out of the pot. So I think we've also got the Tollbridge Fund that's always been managed here by the locals. We've got the United Charities, which is all being run by the locals, and I think this should be run locally. I mean, we've already got the investment group, haven't we, and solicitors, and I think it's just going to slow it down even more. I think we should just go with what we originally agreed with it. Just go for the charity commission.
My concern is the money that we're going to be spending on to use them. So they obviously the setup fee they've set here is a one offset contribution of 3% of the initial donation, which is capped at £15,000. I do feel that it's wasting money, the money which is left for the town. That's my biggest concern. And I've said before in other meetings is the fact that we run a quite highly successful toll bridge fund within the council, and we have done for many, many years. And I do think that this could be an add-on to that. We also spoke about the getting an administrator in to run that side of the funding, run that side of the charity, so then the council can have it all in house. That's my concern.
Okay, Councillor Wiles.
So I've been looking at the accounts for the Kent Community Foundation. I mean, they're clearly a very reputable organisation with a high quality trustee board. They've got at least 30 million in portfolio, which they manage for various bodies. The performance they're reporting in their last accounts range from 11% to 13%. So much higher returns than we're achieving through this fund or the Tollbridge fund. My understanding of the fees that they would charge are a 15,000 initial setup, and thereafter 1.5% of the total fund, which in the current situation would be about 22,000 a year. And then a 5% return, so about 50,000, about 75,000 in total, of which 23,000 roughly would be their annual fee for managing the fund and the grant system and everything else, leaving about 50,000 for grant distribution.
Sorry, I see the numbers slightly different from that.
Okay.
We're talking about a £3 million investment
3 million.
with a 5% return.
Yeah.
And that would give 150,000 a year.
Okay.
1.5% of the 3 million or 45,000 would be the cost of administering that. So that would leave us with 105,000 a year.
Well, maybe we can drill down into the figures, because I wasn't quite clear about how it all puts together. My only concern, I think, about this arrangement is I think there would be some resistance within the town to it being offloaded to another organisation. And my understanding is that once you pass that portfolio to that organisation, it's gone forever. So that's
Okay.
the main concern.
So a couple of points. It's sort of picking up on your first comment and just going a bit further. So in the document it talks about an advisory panel. So that's, and this is where the full detail behind it, that suggests that we can give opinions, but ultimately their decision. That's how I interpret it. So that's one thing, we're giving away actually the decision making to them. And secondly, 11 to 13%, brilliant, but we really don't know what the portfolio is that they use in terms of investing, and so we wouldn't have necessarily, from what I can see, control over that as well. So
there is an ethical investment policy in their accounts.
So you've seen that, good. Well, that's helpful. But I just feel that we don't have any control over ultimately where they put their money, and then also the distance from the town, both geographically, but also I think relationship-wise might be too big a step. But we are only a subset of the 16 councillors, so it has to be a council decision.
And also, so when you think how much, we don't really want to touch the total, we only want to spend the interest, and when you think they're going to take their bill out of the interest, that's a lot of money that we could spend locally per annum. That's why I don't like that.
Sorry, they don't take it out of the interest, they take it out of the portfolio value.
Capital.
So the capital's going down each time.
No, it wouldn't work like that, because if they're getting a 10% return, it would go from 3 million to 3.3 million, and 1.5% of that would be, I don't know, £47,500 a year, and it would, their fee would gradually go up.
My biggest concern is the fact that Georgina, bless her, left the money for Sandtown Council to use for the town. And it's widely publicised that that's the case. And I have many people, Sandtown Council, frankly, and speak about it, what's happening, what's going on. And the money's for the town. I just don't think that putting it to someone else to run it is going to work within our interest or within the town's interest. I do feel that the council has run a Tollbridge fund for many, many years and has been successful with that, for many, many years. And for them to us to give it to someone else, and they take quite a substantial chunk of money each year to run that thing, where we have no say on it. We have no say on who they give it out to, where it goes
Sorry,
to.
I do believe we have, at the end of the day, we have the ultimate decision as to where the money goes to. They would advise where the money should be allocated.
Yeah.
But the ultimate decision rests with Sandwich Town Council, although their document isn't absolutely clear about that.
Yeah, I do feel that with us, as a council, if we can run a perfectly good charity within the Tollbridge fund, then why can't we run a perfectly good charity for the Maddox fund? That's my opinion.
Okay, understand.
I
Margaret?
mean, I think I'm here representing Georgina more than anything else. I'm not obviously a council member, and I don't think she would be happy. She always wanted to do things for the town, within the town, to be seen to be doing it, and I also know somebody who is receiving the grants from the Kent, and they promised money and they had to wait 6 months for it. You know, normally it comes out in April and they've only just got it, and that sort of started alarm bells ringing as well. You know, they were holding on to money. I just feel Georgina would like it in the house.
Okay.
So I think it's useful to have this debate, certainly in this group.
Yeah.
So I've just got two reflections. One is, I would argue the STBF hasn't been brilliantly run over many years, and I'm happy to have a discussion with anybody about that, because actually we've got a fund that has decreased in real terms. The second thing is, it's not, what we're talking about is taking 1.5% out, but actually you've got to realise that when we run it in-house, and we will do it differently, there are still costs. You know, there are staff costs, there are still other costs like audits, and all of that is taken away by taking it elsewhere. And I'm not arguing for it, but all I'm just saying is we just need to look at it as a level playing field. So that's key, and I did have one.
Go over to Councillor Wiles then, while you...
Whilst I remember it.
Yeah, sorry, just revisiting the figures, I was looking at the current share portfolio, but the total package is about 3.1 million.
Yeah.
So according to their figures, there'd be about 150,000 net return each year, of which about 45 would be the fee to them.
Okay.
But 45,000 would more than be adequate to pay for a local clerk
It was.
who would both administer
Plus the
the
audits.
charity and the
Yes.
grant
Yeah.
system and everything else.
Yeah, I was going to say that, I'm also involved with the Sandwich Port and Haven, and we have a part-time clerk there, and we only expect like this would be quarterly meetings, so there only be minutes for quarterly meetings, and people only be asking, and then it should be a yearly tax return, wouldn't it, for the Charities Commission.
The only key difference is that this organisation is skilled at managing shared portfolios. A local clerk and a local committee, as the Mayor says with the Tollbridge Fund, would not achieve such results.
Yeah, we still use the soft budgets. However, my concern is, I'm sure that if us as a committee or the council in itself can look into the ways of looking for a part-time administrator, obviously, and looking for an auditor that will do the accounts for us, I'm sure that money can be taken down a lot to what they're asking for.
Right, just...
I remember it.
Just that, I just wanted to add that Georgina managed a very healthy portfolio herself. And we know by the amount of shares that, and that was one little old lady, if you like.
Yeah, and I was just again talking about eyes wide open. Let's remember now we're setting up a charity now that's based on the current rules. The Tollbridge Fund, there's much that you could prod at it in terms of how it's actually constituted or lack of documents, etc. To get this properly registered as a charity, there will be certain expectations written down in terms of how we operate that charity. So the Tollbridge Fund, in some ways, from my experience, is quite cosy in terms of how it's approached things. This will be very different. So So we have to all understand that. We will be dealing with it very clearly as trustees, not the close relationship that the council has had with the Tollbridge family.
I'd just like to say the Coalbridge Fund doesn't just spend the income though, does it? Because took £100,000 out for the boilers for this place, didn't we?
Exactly.
So,
And that's my point. That's my point. The
so and
relationship.
with other things, we
Yeah.
made a big donation to the sports centre years ago, which was a massive donation. So it doesn't just have the interest, we actually take capital out of the Tollbridge Fund. And one time it was quite low, and I think it's quite healthy at the moment. So this thing, you can only draw, at the moment, we just take out the interest, wouldn't we? Hopefully.
No, it takes out 5% annually.
No, but I'm just saying, we'll have a set limit though, we won't be taking we won't say, oh, we want a memorial guard, we want to draw 250,000 out. No, we won't be doing that.
And I think what you're saying, Councillor Franklin, is, and I get what Mr Mayor's saying. However, I know, and I'm sure you know as well, that some of the Tollbridge fund has been mismanaged, and we agree. But however, with the Maddox fund, we all know that it's there for one thing, and that's for the town, and we will get it right. And I do feel that we're all in agreement. This administration, especially, will get it right. Hopefully, get it right. And I do feel, we used to work on the investments for the Tollbridge fund to pay for things. We have, obviously we've spoken about the application forms, we've spoken about the capping of how much we give a year, etc., etc. I do feel that we can, this council as a whole, if we've noticed over the past recent few months that things are going well with councillors and people are agreeing with things. I reckon we could put our heads together, all 16 of us, and we could work out a solution for us to run it in-house without having to take it to a third party. That's my opinion.
Okay, thanks for all of that. Let me just kind of sum it up and remind you that at the council meeting, the last council meeting, we talked about the cost of administering this charity properly. And I think Councillor Tuke has touched on it. The kind of the regulatory aspects of charities are much, that whole landscape has completely changed from when the toll bridge was set up. And it needs a much more professional approach. It needs, that kind of detailed analysis and proper reporting and so forth. And if the town council is going to do it, we need to adopt a professional approach to it. So at the last council meeting, it was decided that we would estimate the cost of running the charity properly over the course of a year, because at the moment we're relying on a lot of goodwill of the town clerk and the staff who don't necessarily have the capacity to be able to do things for the council that we would necessarily like. And so yes, we would want to employ a clerk. I think given the level of money that's involved, that puts that clerk in a very difficult position, because they're going to be lobbied by lots of different people and different organisations from within the town. And that clerk will need managing and so forth. All I'm saying is that we need to go into this with our eyes wide open. In terms of establishing the charity, we would need, once we do get approval from the Charity Commission, there are set-up costs. We need to have websites, we need to properly electrify it so that assessments are done online. We need to have a proper team of people making assessments. We can't just rely on the financial officer going forward in order to meet the kind of the levels of scrutiny that the Charity Commission kind of require. So for me, I think this is an option that's worth exploring, because we can get knowledge from it, but I think it's a decision for the full council to make, either in the short term or perhaps in the medium term. I think we need to understand what the kind of the proper administration of charities involves, and to be quite honest, I'm not convinced that this council really understands it. So this is a bit of a kind of a searching exercise, and I think the question for this meeting is: do we want to invite these people to come down and give a presentation to the full council? Do we want to continue negotiations? Because I was empowered at a previous meeting to explore this by the full council, and I just want a sound bell, from this management committee as to whether this is worth pursuing.
I think we're delaying this charity, we're putting it months down the line again. We want this, we originally agreed it could be a CIO, didn't we? Now we've got, suddenly this has come up within the last month, which I'm not really happy about, because it's going to delay it. The thing is, I'm also a trustee of 4 charities, and they run quite well, and they're quite expensive. I think they're worth more on this one, and it's just done locally. So I can't see why we can't do it locally.
We heard you.
Yeah, so
I
I don't
understand that.
make time with this.
I hope we can do it locally and do it properly.
That's
locally.
right.
I think the CIO running is separate to what we're talking about now, isn't it? So the CIO is still going ahead, that's fine, you haven't got to worry about that, and I'm sure that the council, we're in there to say that the CIO is going to go ahead. However, my concern is, what's the time frame? Have they given us time frames? Can we be with them a year? Or do we have to be with them permanently until the money's depleted?
If we go with them, it's, as Councillor Wiles said, it's irretrievable gift to them. So, so for them to manage, that's why we would want to have.
I can't vote, sorry to move Councillor Green, I can't vote for something that's going to go to a bigger thing that runs other charities and other grant processes with other people around Kent. I do feel that my opinion is that the Tollbridge Fund has run for many years. Yes, it may have been mismanaged, yes, but we've still had that Tollbridge Fund's been running for how many years, Jeff? 50 years. So it's, my concern is, if we've run a charity for 50 years, and I'm members of charities, I'm trustees of charities as well, if they can run successfully, then why do we have to pass quite a lot of money and pay for the privilege to an organisation that runs other charities when we can run it ourselves? I can't vote for this, really can't.
Okay, understand? Thank you.
Yeah, Chair, I completely agree with your analysis in that I wouldn't use the Tollbridge Fund as any kind of model going forward, because clearly that fund has not been well managed. If it had been, it would probably have 5 or 10 million in the pot right now.
That's rubbish.
And it's become too conjoined with the council. This charity has to be a completely separate entity. So if the trustee meets in this room, for example, then the charity should be paying the council for the hire of the room. And the trustee every year should be deciding who carries out its administration. And what the relationship is. My concern, so I can see the benefits of going with this organisation because they're clearly professional, they're well run, they're managing a massive portfolio and achieving high returns. But the biggest risk for me is that once that money goes to them, it's gone forever. And charities can go bust. Kids Company, there's been recent examples of charities that have gone down the tube. So however confident you might be now, in year 10 or year 20, there's no guarantee that money's safe.
Okay.
So that's my only concern.
Yeah, no, I understand. Okay. So, from my point of view, I think the question I was posing, do you want me to organise for them to come and give a presentation to the full council? Yes or no?
I don't see the harm in that because for them to say once the money's with them, it's there forever. I think that would benefit councillors to hear.
And I think we are a small section of the council, and I know there are other councils that are very positive about KCS, so I wouldn't want to make a decision in their absence. So it's without any commitments, so why wouldn't we do it in parallel without it slowing down anything else we're doing with regards to CIO registration?
I agree with that. I do feel yes, we could get them in. However, we've got our differences, shall I say? And we've all got our concerns. Myself, Councillor Franklin, and obviously Margaret as well.
I think we all have concerns.
Yeah, exactly. And I do feel that we could scrutinise them as it were, to say to them, right, this is we have our concerns. You have your concern. We each have our own different opinions, so it would be a good idea to get them in to see what they say. But
if only to validate your concerns.
Exactly that. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Can we move on to the next item now then? And I'll go back to the agenda. Is the interim grant award process. Members to consider the status of the interim grant award process and to discuss the plan for administering the process. So just to kind of recap, you'll remember that we've drafted up a grant giving policy, a grant application form and a grant assessment form using the toll bridge as a starting basis and so forth. And I think we're all reasonably happy with that. But we've passed that, and it was agreed at the council meeting, we've passed that over to locality to ask them to put the professional touch and make sure that we're not missing a trick, so that we buy into what's current best practice. And I was hoping that locality, who've been tasked with giving a kind of an oven-ready solution for us to approve at the September town council meeting, so that we can launch and invite applications. I was hoping that they were going to give a statement that they were on track to have those documents back to us. We haven't heard from them, but if they don't come back, we'll use the documents that we've got. So that's where we are. So I'm very confident that at the September town council meeting we will approve the necessary documentation to invite The key question that I want to ask this management committee is who then is going to assess the responses received, deal with queries from any organisations as we go forward. Who's going to do that? Because it's going to be a time-consuming job, because I can imagine there's going to be a little bit of a bow wave of applications for monies, and the assessment form, as you've seen, runs to multiple pages. There's quite a bit of work. Do we need to set up a separate adjudication panel? Not necessarily this committee, but who's going to do it? It's a lot of work, and I've got to say, I've got a lot of commitments kind of coming forward in the last quarter of this year. So just throw that open and see what people's thoughts are.
My opinion would be, is that this is a test. This would be a test for us regarding the applications, and we have to wait for locality to come back, obviously. But I think the application forms and bits and pieces will be a test to us to see how well we do, as it were, regarded from the previous item that we just had. The other thing is that some of us, myself, Councillor Franklin, Mr Mayor, yourself, Councillor Green, Councillor Wiles as well, we're all part of some organisations that are possibly going to apply for the funding. So I'm not sure whether I know for a fact that a few of the people that I'm involved with, the trustees that I'm involved with, are going to apply for it. But that means it gives me a peculiar interest because I'm now part of that committee. So that's another thing we need to speak about. So maybe we need to organise something, either separate councillors that. Trouble is, we don't know who's applying for it. That's the only thing. We don't know who's going to apply for it until they apply for it. But I think that would be a concern for us as a whole, as a management committee. I think it should be brought to a management committee. However, some of us might not be able to speak about that application because we're part of that organisation.
I'd certainly like to be involved with the selection.
Okay.
And I've got time.
Great.
Didn't Councillor Black lead on the process earlier this year, where we gave grants?
The interim funding from the council.
STC funding. Was it you? Yeah. Could we not revive that?
Yes, so I think the decision point should be the STC.
Yeah.
So I was trying to work up a proposal that goes there.
Yeah.
So just going back to what Councillor Green said about 5 minutes ago, or maybe 10 minutes ago, regards the RIGO that's now applied to charities.
Yeah.
So one key thing that I've picked out of the first draft of the locality information was that if you have an interest, isn't pecuniary, but if you have an interest in any grants that are going forward, you are not allowed to be involved in the discussion. You should withdraw from this discussion. You certainly can't vote. You can make a representation at the outset that that's it. Now, if you look at the toll bridge funds, what we tend to have is, I've got an interest, but I'm going to be involved in the discussion, I just won't vote.
Yeah,
So that's one change that is going to be very obvious. And my personal view is, in terms of the panel, I think there should be a sub-panel that has to do all this work. It should be those that do not have a vested interest in applications. And I think we probably have got enough councillors, if they're willing to be involved in that, to do the assessment to take to a full meeting.
Okay, so what we're basically saying is that at the September meeting, we will raise this topic, and we'll ask for volunteers to be part of a panel. We probably need as many as half the council as a pool to be able to look at, and with the view that 3 councillors address each application.
The only concern I have is obviously because I'm STC rep for quite a lot of these, especially with the events. Councillor Franklin is STC rep and also a Port Haven Commissioner. So that's my concern is, that's my concern. But I'm happy to stand in for it. But if it comes to a point where I'm STC rep for that such organisation that's gone for it, I will stand aside.
But I think you'd be all right. Sorry.
Yeah, well,
You're right. If you're an STC rep, you're facing inwards.
Yeah.
But if you deliver, just take an example, Simon Mallet delivers the
40s weekend,
If a grant was being requested, then he would be out of the process.
Yeah.
He'd have to be. So that's just a very clear view.
Yeah.
And other councillors similarly have interests where they're actually inside the delivery of an event, particularly events, but other things as well. Jubilee Centre, we've got trustees of Jubilee Centre.
I'm trustee for Gays and Silks Nature Reserve.
Exactly.
So, and I'm obviously STC rep for such as Safe Open Hour Festival and Christmas Night. But I can still vote for those because I'm reporting back to the council what they've said to me. So
Okay, so are you happy if we put a proposal to ask for a panel, a pool of councillors to do the assessment of the bid process, and that we have a minimum of 3 councillors look at each bid and make a recommendation?
Well, I think if we make the panel a bit bigger, because I mean, we're too short tonight, aren't we?
We are too short.
Yeah, because I mean, if one of if you know how many was that 5 set? If there's 7, if one person declares an interest, then they just leave the meeting. I think and the other 6 don't, don't they?
Well, that's if it's been delegated to this management committee to make the assessments. But what I think I'm proposing is that we invite the whole council to volunteer to assess.
Sorry, Margaret. Sorry, apologies. Margaret has already said that she's interested. However, she wouldn't be able to vote because she's a culture member. She's not a councillor. But you're more than happy to give your
because I'm representing Georgina, and the committees and the organisations and the charities that Georgina loved. And I know what they are.
Yes.
So I can speak. Obviously, I can't vote, but I can.
That's absolutely fine.
Okay. All right. So we'll take that to the council in September. Okay.
Would that include a proposal on the amount that will be allocated for this interim? Because that's what the key point is.
I do feel that should be correct.
And also what the grant size might be.
Well,
so my basis of working on, say, for instance, the Tollbridge Fund will be a certain amount of money per year for that set funding for a maximum of, say, £2,000 to apply for, or maximum grant that you can awarded.
I think from my point of view, we're talking about an interim grant process. It's interim while we get the permanent process set up. And if we think that the permanent process, even if we go with establishing our own charity, to actually get it set up and the website and get it all electrified, that's going to take at least 6 months. It's going to at least take to the end of this civic year. And we'll see later on that we've got the council are holding some £84,000. Some of that we need to cover the expenses of locality and the expenses of the solicitor, but that will probably leave an interim pot of about £70,000 for us to think about over the next 6 months.
Yeah, my concern would be we need to cap the maximum we give for that application crisis, for that application time, and also have the cap on how much we give each organisation. However, because if we don't do that, it just makes out that the charity is an open check. It's an open check. It'll be a blank check, as it were. So that's my
Okay, well,
concern.
we can take that to the council in September. Okay, anything else?
I was going to say in a minute, because there's no counts here from the town councils, you know, there's money owing to the town council administrators for the last 2 years.
Well, you know, that's,
You know, the caretakers have been going around there, doing boiler work, checking it. We had quite
well, I think at the end of the day, you know, if you want to bring forward a proposal on that, feel free. At the end of the day, the charity is going to save the council a lot of money going forward because there won't be the demands for grants
you know,
to the council.
when you said you've got there's a lump sum available in cash, before we finalise everything, the town council must make sure they put their bill in, you know, to make sure that it's, so they won't then later on say, oh, you owe us money because of all our officers' work. So we do need to get a bill from the town council, before we actually solidify it, if you know what I mean, because there must be quite a lot of hours spent over the last 2 years around there, and the finance officer, and the town clerk.
Well, as I say, if you wish to bring a proposal on that, Councillor Franklin, you know, that's understandable.
Yeah.
The final thing, just before we close this, if I may, who's going to deal with any queries or whatever? Is that going to be something that we're going to ask a member or a couple of members of this pool to deal with?
I'm happy to be one of those. And I'd prefer to have a second person so as I don't deal with them in isolation.
I'm happy to, if I'm available.
Okay, all right, thank you.
For the moment, it's a single answer.
No.
We're not ready yet.
No, exactly that, yeah.
Okay, let's move on, if we may, then to the memorial. Yeah, we've had a number of suggestions from residents for a memorial. See the attached report. So I hope you've all had the chance to study that. In addition to the 7 points there, a resident has also made a suggestion that some of the money be used to replace benches which were removed from the rope walk, and the concrete plinths are still there. So that's just another to add. So can I suggest that we go through this list, we talk about each individually, and then decide whether it's worth moving to the next step?
Yeah.
Councillor.
Can I just make a point that I have, through the town clerk, contacted Dover District Council regarding space opposite their name shop, because Dover District Council own that space. And the question I've posed is whether Sandwich Town Council could take ownership of that space, because it's a very small income we get from it. And if we can, my suggestion would be to be discussed by the council is we could actually make that into the Georgina Maddox area. It's not determining any of these,
Right.
but actually becomes a space that we can then use to have a memorial, to have a meeting place, to have a place of whatever we want, but it's actually a space that's available. And I think it would be amiss of us to lose the opportunity to take that space. And then the charity can then invest in a design, in a solution, and all the things that would sit on there, but the council would own the space. So I'm just playing that in, and that can influence how we might go with any of these in the future.
All right, I think that's a very good suggestion. Thanks for that, Councillor.
Yeah, I went on there, obviously, the grave site of Georgina Maddox at St Clement's, and myself, the Mr Mayor, and I helped I attended with Mr Mayor and the town clerk to lay flowers on her anniversary of her death at the gravesite. It's lovely, it's well maintained by St Clement's Church groundskeepers and stuff, and I see that's quite a good idea. And we could put a plaque there to say that this is maintained by STC. That'd be a great idea. I want to try, if Mr Mayor agrees, I'm trying to go one better than what he's just said, which was obviously we're trying to move the peace stone into that certain area. I know it's a bit of a sore subject at the moment, but that area with a bench, the bench that's currently there, replacing the bench with her name as a memorial for Georgina in that area would be sufficient. But I'm happy to support what Councillor Tutor said with that area.
It's right at the heart of the town, and it just might be a sensible thing is because she's putting money into the heart of the town for the future. So.
Yes.
Yeah, good suggestion, Councillor.
I would fully support that. I mean, there have been comments lately that it's a neglected space.
It's overgrown now.
It's absolutely central in the town. It could be a fantastic,
Small garden.
Little area.
you know, designed area with good planting, good seating. There is access to a back gate there, which would need to be
Designed
a
in.
good architect would make a fantastic.
And the good thing about it as well also would be obviously we've got a great organisation in the town, Sandwich and Bloom. I'm sure they'll be happy to maintain that.
100%. They've been knocking on the door to look after that for years.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. In terms of the graveside memorial, I wasn't able to go because I was at another charity do that was involved.
It's a hot day that was.
But I think, you know, having a memorial stone next to her kind of
Plinth.
a plinth where her ashes are. I think we just need to take into account the fact that none of the other have any kind of memorial, you know, putting a cat by it or whatever, you know, seems an obvious thing to do because she was such a cat lover.
Yeah.
But we would need to discuss that with kind of the church and with the people who maintain the graveyard. So I think that is something that's worth taking to the next step. Councillor Wells.
I think we need to avoid from the very outset confusing the charity with the town council. So if the grave is being maintained, it shouldn't be the town council that does that, it should be the charity.
Yes.
Because otherwise we're back at the Torbridge Fund.
The grave's maintained anyway.
It is.
You don't need anybody to do anything.
Okay, well, if we were to put another sign or something there, or a cat or whatever.
I do feel
Let's
I
explore.
agree with what Councillor is saying is if we have to have it in the centre of town, if we put it down to the quayside or down on Fellowship Walk or down there, you're going to lose it basically. And we need something in the centre of town so we can see it.
All right, on a little garden, can we get a plaque with a cat on it?
Yeah, absolutely, and the Cannon Jaguar and all of that business can all fit
You have to
in there.
remember that Georgina, it was a comic jaguar, it wasn't a jaguar. It was the,
What, a car?
yeah, the car. Yeah, we
I'm
could
sure
put
the fund
on
can
those
buy a
there.
brand new
Yeah,
jacket and
it
stick it on there.
wasn't,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, the next suggestion, flower containers on the Guildhall forecourt.
Well, I have something to say about
Oh.
that. Georgina didn't like flowers. Georgina, if anybody gave her flowers, they were left outside. If they gave her a plant, they were left outside. She didn't do flowers.
She,
I have-
she left them at our house, to be
Yeah.
honest.
I have a proposal, I don't know if it fits in with this, but I would like to see us fund a scholarship for a music student.
Yeah.
Because Georgina was passionate about her music. She played the piano, the organ, the flute, clarinet.
Sang beautifully, didn't she?
And sang beautifully, and I think if we could sponsor, and the other thing that she was passionate about was maths, and that it would be another
Maths.
that's maths scholarship. She went to endless
Yeah.
evening classes and day classes.
So
Is that something?
Absolutely.
but that would be through the grant
That would be, yeah, exactly, through the grant process, and I think one of the things that this you charity should do is to reach out, not just wait for
That's
applications,
what I
but
was
to
trying
approach
to
the
say. Rather
schools.
than say, we're going to offer this scholarship if
Yeah.
anybody is interested.
Yeah.
Somebody from Sandwich.
Absolutely.
But I think no to the flowers.
Councillor Miles,
You're going through this list.
I was going through
I've
the
got
list,
something
yeah.
to add on the end.
Okay.
I think the key, moving the key car park to somewhere else is a bit, I think that's a bit way over the top.
Yes.
That's 20 million.
Yeah, so I think that one can be struck out quite quickly.
Okay, the sculpture or statue, that's something that we consider for this,
That area.
this area. Signposting or pavement footsteps to link the town centre to the quay and vice versa.
So, sorry, Councillor Wild, I do feel that that's one of the discussions we're having with the Townscape Heritage Committee regarding the finger mark boards that we have around the town that we own. They're out of date, they've been moved, they're broken, so that's something, I think that's can be sidelined for the
Yeah,
HTC.
can I'm not supportive of that because for me,
That's what I mean, so-
that is a council issue.
Yeah, and I think it's being dealt with currently.
It's not a local or organisation or group issue, that's a council issue, so I think that should be.
Yeah, I agree with you, because they were actually put up by Dover District Council. They spent millions on Dover, the museum, they spent 200,000 on Deal Seafront, and they spent 12,500 on Sandwich 30 years ago to put the finger posts.
I think that
Now, and then they said, now they're ours.
yeah, I think the conversation is to have an audit on them, because it says that the key is that way,
Yeah,
and it's not, it's that way,
Keep
so
it
it's, and
around,
they need
don't
to be changed and looked at, so that's
All right.
council thing.
Anything else? Did you have another suggestion, Councillor?
The piano downstairs,
No.
it's a Beckstein, it's one of the best pianos in the world,
No.
after Steinway. I don't know what condition it's in, but is there not an argument for moving it up into the main hall, having it properly restored and tuned, you know, with a plaque on it saying it's maybe then we could use it for concerts or piano recitals or anything like that.
Very good part, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I looked up, it was £18,000.
It's sitting down there doing nothing.
Covered up, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
been there
no,
for a long
absolutely.
time.
Okay,
Yeah, send it away for restoration, I think, yeah.
all right, so I think there's been some good suggestions there, especially the one opposite the no name shop there, and I think that's worth exploring.
Yeah,
And if we can take those to the next steps and report back at the next meeting.
Especially the state it's in currently, I fully support that, so yeah.
Okay,
We've got the town notice board there as well, haven't
Well, that's
we?
exactly, we've got the town notice board, so,
You know, people can sit and, yeah.
I've got a meeting with Kelly Marie
Chat
this
today.
week, so I will be painting
Can
Maria.
I
all right, the next thing is, the next item on the agenda is the finance members to receive an update of the investments held by the fund manager and cash held by Sandwich Town Council. Appendix 4, I hope you've all had a chance to study this. Any comments on it?
No, received a note.
Okay. I would just, to be clear and for the record, the total funds are 3.155 million, and Sandwich Town Council is going to retain £84,000. The rest is all being transferred to Harris Allday, the investment manager, and that's been going in kind of piecemeal.
Yeah.
We note Harris Allday's report, which shows that over the 8-week period from the beginning of July to the 27th of August, the value of the fund grew almost £34,000. So it was growing at a rate of £4,000 a week.
Growing very nicely.
Growing very nicely. So that's growing at like £200,000 a year if you take it through. So the £150,000 a year that we talked about earlier is not pie in the sky. It's very realistic.
Very achievable.
Chair, could you, sorry, just looking at the all-day report, are you able to explain the headline figures there?
Yeah, so
It says 2.2 million. And then
Yeah, so-
contributions 1.887, contributions 325,000.
yeah,
What does that refer to?
that is 325,000 that is being transferred from the town council and is now being received by Harris
Back to
Allday
the portfolio.
into the portfolio. So at the moment, Harris Allday are holding £2.2 million. There's a further £909,000 which is being released as long as we can get the bank line and the signatories and all of that. And that money is the proceeds from the sale of the house and some monies that were received from the executor.
So it's
So
about
there's about
3.2 or
there's
3.1.
3.155 million is the total value. And then what they're saying here is that over the period, they received £33,737 over that 8-week period, kind of growth, because the portfolio had grown to 2.246.
So it's about 50% larger than the Tollbridge fund.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
I would just like to say through you, Chair, that you could have got the sale of the house. They're worried about money laundering, so some of us, we've all had to update the account line,
Yeah.
pre-double a person.
Yeah.
It's been a nightmare, especially for the finance officer.
Doing it.
And you have to do it piecemeal, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
All right. The final thing then is, item on the agenda is to review the action log. And I think
Most of it's been completed.
the terms of reference is done. The co-optees, we've got Margaret, and we discussed that earlier.
Yeah.
The charity establishment, we've already talked about that, other than we haven't had an update on where we are with Girlings, the solicitors. And I understand, you'll remember at the last town council meeting that they were asked to take over the drafting of the charity incorporation document, the governing document. And we decided at the town council meeting that the town clerk, the mayor and Councillor Gray would review that document, and there have been a couple of iterations, if you'd like to give an update.
Yes, so we've had a draft through from them, and actually reading it feels a lot better than what we previously had presented to us. It does give the impression that it takes very much account of the expectations from a charity commission itself, but I'm talking from a naive perspective. I don't know whether it will pass or not, but it is a lot clearer than what we previously had put in front of us. Councillor Gray still needs to respond. He's responded once, they've reworked it, and now he needs to respond on the second iteration, and then hopefully that can go to the end of September's meeting as well.
Right, we're not going to submit it before, because I
No,
thought you
no.
were empowered to review it. The council didn't need to see it again. That was my understanding.
It's great. It's good. It's good. However, we've seen it in the past, and it's happened a few times that we've given the draft in, and this council's gone, well, I don't like that. I want that changed, or I don't like that. That wording needs to change, and it just delays the process all the time.
And Councillor Green's right, that authority is delegated down to the
three of you.
Does it have to? Does it have to go back to council?
I don't think it needs to go back to
Then
council.
as a committee, can we make a proposal that it doesn't?
Well, I thought the town council had made that decision to delegate or to empower those three people to review it.
Yeah.
The only comment that I have is that the previous application fell because of the objectives of the charity were too wide ranging. And I've sent a list of all of the organisations, because the problem that we've got is we're not focusing just on animal welfare or community development. The 60 organisations in Sandwich cover virtually everything. And I just think that it would be sensible for a covering letter to go with the application to explain that this is why the objects of the charity are so wide. I've made that suggestion. Whether the solicitor thinks it's wise to take it up or not, but that's where we stumbled before. And I think it's a part of a lack of understanding by the Charity Commission. I'm also involved in another charity, and we had a report from one of the trustees which basically said the number of charities that are folding is huge, and it's a big problem for the Charity Commission. Okay, let's move on. Approached the Charity Aid Foundation to seek advice. It was the Charity Aid Foundation who put us onto locality
Yeah.
and the Kent Community Foundation. So that action is closed. Advice is sought on the proposal to release funds before the CIO is formed, so we have agreement about the interim grant award. An extraordinary meeting of the town council is required to progress. I think that's been completed. A grant policy is amended, that's completed. Employing a clerk for the Maddox Fund should be a priority, a recommendation for the council.
Yeah, I do feel that we should delay that until we've had the conversation with the Kent Community Fund before we do that. If that's, if everyone's happy with that. There's no point looking into employing someone to be administrator if the decision is made that we go with KCF. So I do feel that we should wait for that before that decision is made.
Okay, all right.
Can we add to that list the thing that Councillor Duker said?
I think that's an action that's arisen at this meeting. There's a number of actions arisen at the meeting, so they'll be captured in the minutes.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah. What I would say, this is providing a space as opposed to providing whatever we want to dedicate.
Yeah.
So it is
Yeah.
It's an enabler.
Yeah, but it's one of the suggestions.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
of them we want to take forward.
Yeah.
Okay, so unless there are any other comments or
I just
concerns.
thought of a question. The Kent Community Fund, will they only accept, if we went with them, will they only accept requests for donations from groups? Because Georgina was passionate about helping individuals as well.
Well, I think whether it's Kent Community Foundation or the charity organisation, we would really struggle to help individuals unless those individuals were applying under the guise of a local organisation. So they could approach the food bank, they could approach, you know, the school or the church or whatever, another organisation, but actually giving monies out to individuals is going to be a major problem given the landscape of charity regulations.
But I think in terms of your point earlier about, for example, somebody being sponsored as a student, and it's picking up on what Councillor Green said, is what it's incumbent on the trustees to engage with the community in a way that actually enables and helps them to come forward rather than it being passive, which is how the Torbridge Fund works. So for example, you could go out to the headmasters of the schools and say, actually there's an opportunity here, if you, criteria will drive it, because it won't be about anybody necessarily, but whatever the criteria is, if they can offer up somebody through the school, then that's the route as an organisation.
So, if say a local scout or girl guide wants to go to an international jamboree where they've come here before and asked for a grant for the Torbridge Fund, so rather than come to this, they'll have to go, the scouts will have to ask on their behalf.
Exactly.
It won't be the whole. It won't be the complete organisation. It'll be the troop. It'll be the group.
Well,
so
the
family group,
that'd be
or
sandwich.
the GSL group scout leader.
Because Georgina did help individuals.
Yeah, no, we
quite
understand that, but it's
but that's cleared that up.
Yes.
okay. Councillor Wiles.
KCF's criteria say any group has to be constituted.
Yeah.
Whether it's a formal charity or but it has to have some form of constitution. It can't be an individual.
And the CIO documentation says
It says the same thing. Exactly. And our grant making criteria says the same.
All right, well, if there's nothing else, I propose to close the meeting, and I suggest that we have our next meeting maybe a week after the town council meeting, so the first week of October.
Not Tuesday.
Oh yeah.
Well,
All right,
Meeting
meeting closed.
Thank you.
No.